Senator Tester of Montana is recognized.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank you, Chairman Gensler, for being here as always. Recently, I led a group of my colleagues writing to you about your process for a significant number of proposals that the SEC has been working on over the last year. I would think that you would agree that it is important that there is sufficient opportunity for stakeholder input and feedback. One of those proposals that I've been hearing about is the enhancement and the standardization of climate-related disclosures for investors. You probably know that I'm a farmer. This is my wife and I's 45th harvest, as a matter of fact. And as a working farmer, I can tell you that I can understand the importance of considering the impacts of climate change. This year was our second worst harvest due to drought. Last year, due to extreme weather conditions, was our worst harvest. So climate change is real, and it appears like it ain't going away. So we've got some issues to deal with. I also know, though, that access to capital and markets to sell our product and to produce our product is really important. And I can tell you I understand the burden of reporting information. I get surveys nearly every day about what I'm doing as a farmer. This week, there were a number of farm groups that were in that I visited with virtually and in person, a number of banks, and they were concerned about this rule. So from an production agriculture standpoint, as you also know, I don't have a lot of options as a farmer. I tell folks when I wake up in the morning and throw a couple hundred gallons of diesel fuel on the tractor, it's not like I've got an electric tractor in the garage that I can use. So I'm pretty well locked into fuel, diesel fuel, carbon-based fuel at this moment in time. So under this rule, what responsibility would folks in production agriculture, specifically Montana farmers, have for disclosing their emissions?
I thank you for that question. Presuming that those farmers are not public company, they don't come under the rule. But we have heard from various farm bureaus, and of course the American Farm Bureau Federation, Zippy Duval and I have talked about this, and maybe other members probably know Zippy. And public companies would have an obligation under the proposal with regard to greenhouse gas emissions, their own emissions, and then we say in the rule that they estimate their supply chain emissions if it's material. So it's got a materiality catch, but it's just that they estimate, and we've heard some folks in the farm and community. Thank you. The farm community, that they're concerned. And so we're taking a very close look at that amongst our 14,000 other comments on this.
So let me give you a scenario. Markets are really important. I like to direct market as much as I can, but not much is direct marketed off of my farm, okay? I sell to publicly owned companies, okay? Let's just take wheat, for example. I sell wheat to a publicly owned company, and they start doing their assessment on climate impacts, which I certainly don't have a problem with, by the way. What am I, as a farmer who sold them grain, for example, or you could say cattle, or pick a commodity. If the company says to me, look, if you're going to do business with me, I got to have all this information, what are my recourses?
What we put out, and again, we got some very good comments and we're working through this, is that public company you sell to does not have any obligation to ask you specifically. They either need to estimate, or if they don't have an estimate, just discuss how they're managing that Scope 3. But I would say this is what the public comment process is about. We've heard from 14,000 other people, but particularly in the farm community, and how we sort of address this to lower the cost, because the intent, Senator, is not that whether it's the farm community or other community, if they're not public companies, they're not under this rule.
I've got it, but my concern, as I indicated with my previous statement, is we sell to public companies. I mean, the vast majority of the product that's sold is to a public company. And if the public, and I just bring this to your attention, and I don't want to repeat myself, but if the public company says, hey, we need you, Jon Tester, T-Bone Farms, to tell us how much fuel you used, how much fertilizer you used, what your inputs were, and all that. It becomes an issue. It becomes an issue, especially for the little guy who's out there running a tractor or fixing that tractor and doesn't have a lot of time to sit in the house behind a computer.
And I'll say two things. One is that's not the intent of what we did, particularly of how we did it with the safe harbor and only estimates. But two, that's the benefit of public comment. That's why this helps us. And of course, we'll put this hearing in the public record, in our public record as well.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Chairman.
Thanks, Senator Tester.